So I'm in Glasgow today, we're in Buchanan Street and I'm here with Ben. How's it going, Ben? Alright, mate?
All good.
We're going to conduct some interviews with people. Well, we've just discovered this wee model, and it's a model of Glasgow city centre. I don't know if anybody can see that it's on a perfectly flat fucking table. Where is the curvature? You would think they would add in the curvature for that length of city, but it's not there. So, we're in Buchanan Street today. There's loads of people here, so we'll see if we can get any of them to have a wee conversation with us. So this, even people have become a commodity for their parts. Shit, better open that. Oh, come round here. How you doing, my man? I'm Dale.
I'm Chris.
Chris, how you doing, Chris? Well, it is, Chris. I've got a wee YouTube channel and I just ask kind of things about the world we're living in and stuff like that. Can I ask you right off the bat, do you trust government?
Do I trust the government?
Yeah.
No.
No. Do you trust your own senses?
Right. 100%.
And have you got a limit to where you would say the government do tell you the truth, or?
What do you mean?
Well, you know, I ask people that and they'll say they don't trust the government and stuff, and then I'll ask them, you know, well, what would you trust for the government? I mean, where do you draw the line?
I don't think there's any line that I would draw there. It's a state of affairs these days.
Yeah. So, if I says to you then, you know, you were saying you were trusting your own senses, and I was to bring it back to that, you know, if the government are lying about many things.
Well, that's apparent, that's obvious every day.
Yeah, yeah. So what if I says to you they were lying about where we live?
If you're talking about flat earth, I've already done the research on that.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not flat.
Right.
I know that for sure. I've calculated the distances between cities. I've travelled round flights right around the world.
Yeah.
If it's not round, i.e. a ball, is this what we're talking about?
Yep.
Flat earth?
Yep.
Aye. So if it's not a sphere, it could possibly be, and I'm happy and open to accept the fact that it's a random shape.
So formless?
Formless piece of rock that doesn't have any particular shape.
Yeah.
I.e., you know, like a huge asteroid would just be like a rock that isn't a particular shape. I'd be open to that.
Can I push you on it then?
Aye, of course you can, yeah.
So if we're saying we trust our senses, now for me I had to get in and I had to extensively research these things myself. And I've always been science based. I've always liked to base things on empirical facts. So we come back to our senses, you know, that's the first, you know, port of call. We have to have, you know, trust in them first and foremost. And that things, you know, claims being made, you know, if we're talking about governments or even just on a one-to-one level between me and you, if you're making claims to me about anything that has to fall under the fact that, you know, natural science, which is observable, measurable, testable, repeatable. So when I, you know, established that, you know, I figured out that a lot of the stuff they tell us is based in mathematics. The mathematics is a formal science. Do you know what that means?
Right.
So it's a language which can be manipulated. You know, in order for it to come into natural science, it always has to match observable reality. So what I established, and you know, I'll just put this to you right away, and you can say what you like. The best and most accurate measuring tool that anybody has is water. There is no man-made instrument, optics, you know, lasers. There's nothing more accurate than liquid water and how it behaves. Mm-hmm. The natural physics of liquid on Earth is to conform to the shape of any container. The surface will always be level. There will be motion on the surface and currents and stuff, but water does not have the ability to support itself as to display shapes upon its surface. So it doesn't matter how slight the slant is or the slope or whatever MD wants to claim, it's physically impossible for liquid to behave like that.
Water's held here by gravity though.
Right, but if we go back to our senses again, if I says to you, I mean, could you think of one practical example of a body of water that displays convexity upon its surface or conforms to the exterior of a shape?
Well, I guess it depends on the volume and the size, the sheer size of the body of water.
So do you think size then plays a part on the physics changing? At what scale do you think it would have to be before the physics would change as we know them?
I'm not sure. I don't know about that. I'd have to look into that to get my own maths on that. I do know that the water's held here it's held against the surface of whether it's a ball or an indiscriminate shaped rock. It's held here by the gravity, by the magnetic field that goes round whatever it is we're on.
So would you say that then gravity is a magnetic force?
No, gravity is not magnetic force. It's
Has gravity ever been proven?
No, it hasn't.
So it's theoretical.
It is.
So if we get back to our senses again and real natural science and things being based on empirical facts, what we can observe, measure and test. I mean, I can get any scale right now of a container and I can show you how liquid behaves. If I was to bring you a small ball right up to, you know, as large a ball as you want, do you think that the water's going to behave differently at some unspecified scale? If somebody came to me...
I would expect not, aye. I would expect it would be the same at any different size, aye.
So for me, right there and then, you know, as I say, as I established that is the most accurate measuring tool we have. We've used it for building and construction for millennia. Aye. So that one fundamental fact that can be tested, repeated and observed by every single person alive totally debunks the claim that we live on a spinning ball.
Sure.
Or any kind of exterior of any shape. For me, if we're scaling things through the scientific method, the Earth must be some sort of container.
Sure. And if that's the case, and I've thought about this a lot, so what? If there's an ice wall around the whole...
the ice wall, you've heard about this nonsense.
No, I've done my research, mate. Well, if there's, you know, a wall at the end of it, or whether there's not and it's just off the edge, whatever, it sort of doesn't really matter, does it? Because then we're still going to hit space either way, whether we're coming off a ball or off a flat Earth.
So you believe in space?
Aye, of course I do. I can see it.
So you've never been there, have you?
No, I haven't, but I can see it with my own eyes.
Well, what can you see?
Well, I can see that it's not endless what we're on.
Well, would it make more sense to you if I says that it was contained, that the sky is part of the container? Because again, we go back to science.
You're talking about a Dyson sphere.
Well, I postulate that I'll go back quick to what you said about the ice wall, and obviously I understand that these are straw men that have been put out there by the governments to try and ridicule anybody questioning the idea that the Earth may be a level plane, and they give us these cartoons with ice walls, when the fact of the matter is that there is no full exploration. Like me and you as a common man, we don't know about any of these things.
Aye.
My stance is, you know, it's an ongoing investigation and we need full exploration in order to establish the full dimensions.
Well, we've got some evidence already that's out there that's not being recognised. You know, we have 15th century maps that show Antarctica with no ice on it.
Yeah.
All right, and that's a fact. Where, you know, the powers that be will tell us that it's been under ice for 2.5 million years, but that's not true, because we have maps that show it as land.
So you think they're hiding something?
Oh, definitely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's not just what we're standing on. There's lots of different aspects of life that are hidden from us for various different reasons.
Exactly. So just come back again, you know, I always want to bring back to a common language, you know, of natural science, things that we can test, observe, measure and repeat, so that way that, you know, we can't lie to each other if we base it on, you know, that foundation. So when we talk about space, you were talking about space earlier, what the official narrative is, obviously you're aware, tells you is that we live, you know, space is a vacuum, and the Earth is a pressurised gaseous system, and that there's a magical force that pulls all that onto the globular rock. Now we go to natural science again. Two opposing pressure systems, like a neutral system, like a vacuum with nothing in it, and a gaseous pressure system. In order for them to be side by side to each other, there has to be a solid barrier between the two of them, or else you have a thing called equilibrium. Do you agree with that?
Aye.
So again, just going to claims, space is a vacuum, Earth's a positive pressure system, it slowly but surely tapers off into this vacuum of space. Not anywhere on Earth can we recreate or test and observe that. All observations and tests shows that it has to have a solid barrier between them. So when you were saying about, you know, the Earth maybe being encased, I ponder that we are inside a sphere and that we're on a level plane within the centre of the sphere. I mean, it's a postulation I could, or a hypothesis I could go with that is just as much
it's just as valid as
well, exactly.
anything else,
So you know, I hear this with people, and you know, they know there's a question, they don't trust the government, but yet they'll still try and back up space and outer space and space travel. And I'll say to them, you know, you've never experienced that yourself. So this is what I'm saying about where's the line on what you trust. I mean, for me, the majority of people are influenced by what they see on the TV, that being videos and images. I mean, I take it that's where you would base your understanding of space and space travel. So, but you believe in space?
Well, I do. I just maybe have queries about what's actually going on there. I do believe in space, I do.
Do you think it's a vacuum?
I would assume it is.
So again, you know, in order for that to exist, there must be some sort of barrier between the vacuum and our gaseous atmosphere.
I don't know about that. I'm not really that technical. I don't know about that. I would have to again look into that really technically, and I haven't. What I do know is that, you know, the pictures that we see online or on the television that NASA give us are definitely manipulated. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the history of NASA, it's talking about Werner von Braun.
Yeah.
So we're looking at you know, the Nazis.
Yep.
And you know, if you get into that hornet's nest, there's all sort of misinformation and disinformation pumped to us.
Yeah. What about if, you know, they were trying exploration laterally across the way, and they've got us looking up the way? Because, you know, you touched on the images there, and there is absolutely no actual photographs or video from space. Other images are composites. They tell you this on their sites, like NASA. They'll tell you it's a composite. Yeah. So now when you've got opened eyes, you go back and you look, and I look at these images and they're cartoons.
Well, the photographs from the moon, you know, are questionable.
Do you believe they went there?
Well, I would love to think that we did, but
the 1960s?
I sort of doubt it, because I've done a lot of research on the photographs, and there's two particular photographs that are a problem. So there's the photograph of Neil Armstrong standing outside the Apollo shuttle, and the crosshairs from the photograph are behind him. So I know that he's been dropped into that photograph. That's 100%.
Well, there's so many anomalies with the moon stuff.
Whether that photograph was real or not, that photograph has been manipulated for whatever reason. There's another photograph where the two astronauts are walking down a cliff face, and that same cliff face is in another photograph from the next day, but it's 1,000 kilometres away from where they were. There's no possible way they could have shot that the way that they did. So that's all questionable to me. I don't know about that.
For me, again, you know, the moon stuff, you always ask people that, but for me it's utter nonsense. 1960s technology, you know, less computing power than, you know, a calculator. You know, signals clear as day. But the other huge problem with it is, again, as I say, we're claiming a vacuum next to a positive pressure system. Now, you have to prove that to me first, that can be possible, and there's nothing in science that can show or recreate that.
Yeah, right.
The other problem is what are you propelling against if you're in a vacuum? Because, you know, mechanics here and how things operate here is, you know, thrust works by pushing against the air. You have to have something to push against in order to have thrust. And if you're in a vacuum, they're claiming there's very little particles there at all, virtually nothing. What are you pushing against?
We can do this in the lab. We can fill a box, drain the air out, and see that any type of propulsion won't create any friction.
I mean, you know, you got to sort of, you know, if you're looking at that, you got to sort of ask the question why as well. Why would you cover that up? Why would you tell a story to put people off the track? And then you're starting to get into, you know, the reverse engineering of magnetic propulsion systems being kept secret for such a long time. You know, is that what it is? Is they want us to be on the track of that we're still needing fossil-based fuels because they've already worked out that we can travel with magnetic propulsion?
Well, I think scarcity is a huge control mechanism, definitely, and that for me plays into the whole narrative of...
Don't forget, everybody still has to pay their bill.
Exactly.
That's the other thing. You know, they want that money flowing in. They can't do without that money flowing in.
For me, again, it's just about controlling people and keeping them still and
I mean, anybody who's been inside will tell you when they come out, they go, oh yeah, right, outside it's just a bigger cell. You just got better buy up.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's the thing. It's twofold for me. If you tell people they live on a delicate, little rock flying endlessly through the vacuum of space, that puts people in a disempowering psychological state of mind. Where they're easy to control, they're kept in fear.
Oh, aye. I'm not denying we're definitely slaves.
Yeah. So
sure. You just got to not be a slave.
Well,
For
me, part of the mind control aspect is by telling you live on a sphere, because if you think you live on a sphere and they've told you these stories about, great explorers discovered it all, therefore there's nothing left for you to discover, just sit still in your little box.
Aye.
What if there's more beyond here? What if there are actually hiding other continents, or they're hiding a way out of here to access another pond? I mean, these are possibilities for me that seem a lot more feasible than, let's go to outer space and trillions of miles away and, it's so far away.
Aye.
For me, that's a distraction to what is going on laterally across the way. Based on this conversation, do you think you'll have a wee reconsideration and have a look back into it again?
Well, I'm on it every day, to be honest.
I'll give you the name of my channel.
I think I already know, because you're a friend of Anne Pavo, eh?
Aye.
Aye, right.
Do you know Anne? Aye.
I tattoo Anne.
Flat earth female. Fuck, so it is, I recognise you now. Aye, it's a small world. That's incredible. Incredible. Aye, well, so I mean, you're sitting in a position of no sure, don't know.
Well, the flat earth thing, I've thought about it a lot, and obviously I can't prove anything. I have flown all around the world, and I've sort of checked those distances in flight, and it seems like the distance between Sao Paulo to South Africa to Sydney would suggest to me that it's not flat. I am happy to
Can I ask
explore the possibility that it's not round as well.
But do flight distances prove a globe? I mean, you would need measurable curvature for the shape of the Earth, would you know? Are you basing this on, this circular AE map?
Aye.
Right, so for me that's a straw man.
You're assuming the AE map.
Yeah.
Got some sound.
Yeah, when somebody says to me flat Earth, I'm thinking it's sort of a flat plane that's maybe a disc shape, so,
Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know, maybe
programming?
I don't know, I would say most flat earthers probably are pushing that.
Yeah, well there is a few, but we
if you look at what Patricia Steer says in the US, do you know Patricia Steer? So she's like, right into the flat earth. She does the same thing, YouTube docos. I don't know what she says really. Again, I can't really make head nor tail of that. Just not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Well,
I'm more concerned. I'm not concerned what shape it is. What I'm more concerned with is maybe raising enough challenge the bodies of people that might be involved in covering it up.
Yeah.
That's more what I'm interested in.
That's what I'm interested in as well. That's why I try and bring awareness, because my whole stance is, look, I know that it's not what they're telling me.
Don't forget those people. They run the world. They got all the money. Mm-hmm. They're running the governments. They're running the military. So you get to a certain point where you're just going to get two in the chest.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yep. Well, that's it. But for me, the people have the power if people are an awareness here.
Well, if everybody stood up today and discussed what we've just discussed, it could all be fixed by tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Lunchtime.
Yep.
Because it's millions of people.
Yeah.
But everybody's on their smartphones, everybody's going home with their wee box and watching that wee box and their packet pizza, and they don't want to give that up.
No. Well, it's a delusion, and that's what I say, for me, people have been sold delusions and they're quite happy and they're invested in the delusions. But for me, it all comes down to the foundation. If we have a false psychological foundation, believing that you're insignificant, flying on a wee ball endlessly through space, that's a psychological state of dog eat dog.
Yeah.
Fuck you, I'm going to take what I can for myself, because there's no meaning to any of this. And as you say, for me, if we had this conversation and we sorted this out and established exactly what it was, things would change really quickly.
Yeah, well, immediately I know that right now we could have free power.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
See, you were asking before why, what's the point? And I think that really ties in with what we were talking about, the state of people nowadays. When you walk in the street, people don't really care about each other. There's a general state of dementia and all this. And have you read 1984? George Orwell. It's just one book out of many. But they'll tell you exactly what's the first thing to do if you're a totalitarian regime. If you take over a country, what's the first thing you do? You take control of education. It's the most important thing. And it's been a long time in civilized countries that our education system is run by the government. And you say, the first question was, would you trust the government?
Well, I have 3 children in school right now, and I know that all my children are taught at school is how to conform to society. So I have to have additional education. All my children are all, they're all before 18. They're all pre-18. So they're just taking what they get fed at school. But they now know that that's not what they got to do. They now know I've taught them to educate themselves and educated them in lots of the things we've spoken about just now, so that they have at least a first basic understanding of things might not be what they seem. And I think that's important as well, because it's the children that are coming next. They're the next generation. They're the ones, I doubt anybody my age is going to be able to do anything about it. It's the kids that are the next generation that are going to have to start.
And that's a great point, because for me that's part of my journey and my experience as well. We're talking about governments and manipulation, and for me the removal of the liberal arts from mainstream education has played a huge role in that. And in the liberal arts you have things like the trivium, where they teach logic, rhetoric and grammar, and if we had these skills, nobody would be able to tell us lies. It's just as you say, that what they're doing is conforming the children. What to think? No, here's the tools, the mechanisms for how to think, how to address reality, how to question each other's logic and reasoning, how to use a Socratic method of questioning in order to find out the truths or falsities in any given claim. For me, that's a huge part of this whole problem that we're facing right now. So for me, that's exactly what I do with my kids. I try and instill in them how to think, know what to think, and by that they can then assess through their own critical reasoning what's true and what's false. So there's huge aspects of this that it's not just, the Earth's not a globe. There's a whole process of how do we get in this mess in the first place, and for me that's part of my journey as well, and stuff that has to be looked at.
It might not be part of a bigger picture as well. I've done a lot of sort of investigation and research over the years into other aspects of cover-up. You look at sites in the world like Pumapunku and Machu Picchu, and you see the size of the stones that were put in place. There's no possible way that could have been done with even methods that we have today to lift and move stones. It's not possible even today with 100-ton cranes. You can't move those stones the way they moved those stones, and so then you're sort of looking at, you have to look at maybe old text and old scripture, and it tells us in old text the giants. I now firmly believe that in the past Earth had tribes of giants. I believe that. There's
many people that are on that exact same train that you're on with that as well. I mean, for me, again, our true history for me is much more mystical and fantastic than what's been portrayed to us. They've given us this narrative of, the further back you go, the more primitive we were. And for me, it's just been a part of the deception.
Well, I think that fact that you're saying there, the further back you go, the more primitive we were, that's just nonsense. That's not the case. It goes in cycles, and the Mayan calendar, if you look at that, it tells you that everybody waited in 2012 for the end of the world, right? Everybody thought it was literal that the world was going to end because the Mayan calendar ended in 2012. But what 2012 in the Mayan calendar was signalling, it's the peak of a dark age. And preceding that dark age was a golden age. And coming after it will be another golden age, and it's a wave of cycle that's 26,000 years a cycle. And it's the cycle of the zodiac. The whole house, the whole celestial house takes 26,000 years to cycle once. And if you go back and you look at like the Giza Plateau, the pyramids in Egypt, the Sphinx, etc., there's no way that the Egyptian archaeology establishment are giving us the right information there, and they must know they're telling us it's 4,500 years old. That can't be. Right? At the very minimum, the Sphinx must be 10,000 years old because it's Leo and it faces east. And the last time the House of Leo would have faced east in the celestial sky would have been 10,500 years ago. If it wasn't built then, it would have had to have been built 35,000 years ago. That's what I believe. I believe that the pyramids at Giza and the monuments in Egypt and the buildings in South America are 35,000 years old. Now, the people that tell us that they're not, they know that they're not. So I believe that that's tied in with what you're talking about as well. There's an overall picture that we're not getting, and everybody, they're all in on it. It's not just the money people, it's also the religious people. There's a reason, there's something that we're not getting, that if we got, everything would fall into place. You go, right, that's why they didn't tell us that and that, because it's connected.
Well, that's the thing for me, and that's what I've been trying to say to people. We're at this point of amnesia, and people say things like, oh, you go inwards to find the truth, and I'm like, I've done my inward journey, and for me now there's a missing piece of the puzzle, and for me it's the exploration of the actual physical world that for me will bring us back to a realisation of who we are, what our natural history is, where we came from.
The thing is though, that whatever it is that's missing, it's so sinister. That's why it's life and death to protect and cover that up generation after generation after generation. Whatever it is, it's going to be out there, mate. It's going to be something like we're needing to be harvested by some other species that they've done a deal with the government or whatever, or they need to crossbreed with us or whatever it is.
So you're in agreement then, there's a bigger picture. And that's it for me. The bigger picture's no outer space. The bigger picture for me is laterally. Whatever anybody wants to believe about this place, for me, I look at life, I look at this reality as a machine. And for me, there'll be inlets and there'll be outlet points in it. There'll be intricate parts of it. For me, a lot of the technology we have is based on reverse engineering how this reality actually works. So I am in total agreement with you. I think there's a much bigger picture here than anybody really realises, and myself included. I'm like everybody else. I'm stabbing in the dark, try to make sense of this. But I've established that, look, I have to base things on empirical facts. I have to trust my common sense, abilities, and I think everybody else should be encouraged into that as well, because that way, as I say, we kind of lie to each other then. And then if we base things on objective, measurable, testable reality, we can start to establish and unfurl, what we're actually living in here.
It's going to get to a point though, even if you were to raise mass awareness, like, what you're doing today, a millionfold, and you start to get a lot of people, it's going to get dangerous, because you're starting to tamper with the money.
Do you think it's about the money? I think it's.
Well, some of it's about the money. It's definitely some of it is. You look at families like the Rothschilds. They're the wealthiest family on earth. They own the Reserve Bank, not just in the US, but in every other country except for the ones in the Middle East that we're destroying. And that's probably why we're destroying them, because they're not part of the Reserve Bank.
So if they print the money and they've got all the wealth that you could possibly imagine, I mean, the game has to be bigger than that.
They own the media, they own the oil. The oil's a problem because they need to keep that flowing. That money needs to keep coming in. They need you to pay your electricity bill every month, when in fact 100 years ago we could have done away with that. We know that. Nikola Tesla already worked out the technology for free energy. We know that, but how are we going to get it?
Well, we need to start fucking pulling together, I think, and make a stand at some point. But again, the problem comes in, the complexities. People are invested in their delusions. People have got a wee slice of the pie that they're comfortable with, and they don't want that upset. So, we'll get it twofold. We've got these opposers, these elitists, these controllers, whatever you want to call them. And then we have the people who are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome, as far as I can see. And because of the state of their mind, they're quite happy to just go with the delusions that have been sold. So we've got a real struggle, and I'm totally aware of that. But what am I supposed to do? Sit back and?
Well, no, not sit back. I mean, you're out doing this, and it's brilliant. It's great, challenging people's perception of the world. It's good. I probably do it in a different way. I sit and tattoo people, and I've got them on my bench for 3 hours, and I get into their head about it. And you'd actually be surprised at how many people are open and aware of much more of these subjects than they used to be. Is
Just
it good?
because you're in a kind of intimate relationship when you're tattooing with them, maybe that's why
That's
they
right,
open up
yeah.
a bit more.
You know, they're
And you've
open
got a
to
needle.
talk to me.
You've got a needle, you could hurt them if you want.
Aye, you know. I always start to slip in bits and pieces at the end of the conversation and try and steer them to a lot of the subjects we've just talked about on a daily basis. But, you know, I would love to be able to, well, you know, I'm the kind of person who would challenge it with every fibre in my being to the point where it would get dangerous.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But I'm not going to stand up on my own
Yeah,
because you need a lot of people.
exactly.
Like I say, if you had everybody, it's done by tomorrow lunchtime.
Yeah, see, that's the beauty of this, and that's part of my journey. It's like trying to steer people away from the pointing the finger, you know, and trying to take anything away from anybody. For me, if we stick to this subject, for me it's enough to cause enough rumblings, because you're no pointing the finger at anybody. This is about objective reality. It's about science,
Yeah.
you know, and the measurement and testing of the natural world. No pointing at the Rothschilds,
Sure.
no pointing about any of these. You know, that for me it would be enough. If you could get that to enough people, it would cause enough rumblings for people to stand up and say, look, what the fuck's going on here? But that's just the angle I'm coming at, and there's many people out there that are coming from so many different angles. And as you say, you know, 15, 20 years ago when I was getting involved in these types of things, you couldn't speak to anybody.
No.
Nowadays, I could stop the majority of people here and they would have heard of conspiracy, or 9/11 was an inside job, or, you know, the banking system. You know, it seems to me that it's creeping in, you know, and I just hope that it continues, and, you know, show people this lie. And if you can show them that the fundamentals, the foundation is a false one, then for me that's it. It tears apart every other lie as well.
Yeah,
You know?
it's just connecting the dots,
Yeah.
It's connecting it together, which I still haven't done yet. I know there's loads of different aspects of it that all connect somehow, but whatever it is that connects it is protected with generations of whether it's organisations
Yeah.
or elite, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
It's protected.
It's been done through generations. You can see that and you can trace it. As I say, even going back to the education system, removing liberal arts from, you know, the public arena, because they don't want people critical. They don't want people being able to tear apart lies and having that, you know, access to their kind of tools.
Yeah.
And again, you know, in order to reverse it, hopefully it's going to be quicker than it was for them to implement it. If we can reverse it or break it apart, you know, it's not going to take as many generations that they've went through in order to bring it to this stage. That's my hope. Maybe naive and idealistic, but fuck it, I've got to
It took
try.
a while to perfect the tools, you know.
Yeah.
I would say that to get it to fix it to whatever it is, we're going to have to go through an absolute horror show.
Well, I think we're already going through the horror show, and this is a point I always say. For me, I hear these from people as well. Fix it, you know, and all these things, when it comes right down to it, is based on the assumption that this is where we're meant to be. This is all that exists. This is where humans are supposed to be. This is life. This is what we call Mother Earth. What if it's not? What if this is just a wee deep dark corner of something much bigger, and we're trying to fix something that, you know, can't be fixed because we're in an unnatural situation? Maybe that's the
You
problem.
can feel that in your everyday
Aye.
being, you know.
That this is an unnatural situation we're in.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there might not be fixing this, and, you know, the way we live right now, it might have to totally crumble. We might be able to flee to other ponds or other continents. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, it's been an
Aye, well
absolute
done.
pleasure.
You too.
And just for the record, Anne Pavo is flat earth female for anybody out there. So, nice one. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Been a pleasure.
Thanks.